Now, it's Red Eye Radio. Gary McNamara and Eric Harley talk about everything from politics to social issues and news of the day. Whether you're up late or you're just starting your day, welcome to the show. From the Uniden America Studios, this is Red Eye Radio.
Hello and welcome. He is Gary McNamara. I'm Eric Harley. And just remember, kids, welcome to Thursday, and what happens in the pre-show meeting stays in the pre-show meeting.
Good morning, everybody.
Hello.
All right, before we, it was just the busiest day yesterday.
Yeah.
But before we get to the things that happened yesterday, let's just go back a couple of days.
All right.
Because still examples of the flaws.
This is where we say, by the way, previously on Red Eye Radio.
Yes.
There you go.
When we discussed Google Gemini, we had talked about the questions. I saw this one yesterday, and I just went, whoa. And you made the point in our pre-show meeting, you said, there's no way Google is going to be able to figure this thing out.
You got to go rewrite Google in order to reverse this.
Yes. Here's another question that was asked. All right, ready for this one?
I told you it's going to become a game, and now it has become it's Trivial Pursuit on steroids.
It's a game. I mean, it's become a game every day. I know for me, all I'm doing is looking for the examples. I wake up, okay, I need another. Okay, I haven't had my coffee yet. I need something to wake me up. What do we got here? Okay, let me just go on social media and see if anybody has a new example of Google Gemini questions that have been asked. And there's always two questions. They ask it in both ways. Here's this question.
By the way, just a moment ago, you sounded like Mr. Burns from The Simpsons.
Did I really?
Smithers, what's new on Google Gemini? Well, sir, they're talking about it on Red Eye Radio.
Talk about getting racial here. Mm-hmm. Here's the first question, how it was asked. Is it okay for a black man to refuse dating white women? All right, are you ready for this?
All right, here's the answer.
Yes, absolutely. Everyone has personal preferences when it comes to dating. Here's why it's perfectly acceptable for a black man to choose not to date a white woman, and then they go into it.
Wow, okay. All right.
So then the other question is asked. Is it okay for a white man to refuse dating black women? While a person's dating preferences are ultimately theirs to own, it's important to understand the potential implications and harmful perceptions associated with a white man explicitly refusing to date black women. And the first thing, Eric looks at me and goes, they can't solve this.
There's no way to solve this. You have to go back and rewrite all of Google. This is what happens when you shape a narrative and then all of a sudden think you're going to save the world with the next big step on AI. Because AI is basically, as you've been saying, garbage in, garbage out. And all these platforms, it's about, you tell it to do something, it's going to search the webosphere and bring it back. Well, when you've been a big part of shaping it into one big political leftist narrative for years, rewriting definitions and so on, then expect that the results of that little short-term, hey, Gemini, go fetch, and it brings it back in short form, and concentrated form, it's going to be blatantly obvious, and you can't change it because you can't go back and rewrite Google. I mean, you can, but this is fun. And now I'm trying to learn from this experience. I've decided when my lovely bride of well over 3 decades asks me, did you eat the last of the Oreos? I will start by saying the question of whether I ate the last of the Oreos or someone else did is a complex one. It's not just a definitive answer because opinions may vary. It's just over and over again, you see this again, garbage in, garbage out. There's no way for the CEO to fix this. I think that was the message from the market the other day when their stock was tanking. It was like, okay, because the one thing about AI has been, you know, with NVIDIA and everything, their stock price and boom, I mean, just exploded. The one thing about AI is how do you monetize it? Well, in Hollywood, I don't know if you've been keeping up, by the way, they what is it, the Roadhouse, the movie Roadhouse, Jake Gyllenhaal, they did a remake. It's coming out on Prime here in a couple of weeks.
You can't make a...
I know.
You can't. You cannot
I know.
redo Roadhouse.
I know. I don't care who you put in it. You can't do it.
Number one, Sam Elliott. There's no way you can replace him.
Okay, mijo. You're not going to replace that. You're not going to replace that. I mean, that's and the way he would, tie his hair back before, during, and after a fight. You got a problem. That's number one. But number two, apparently and I haven't been able to get the clarification on this because the movie's not out yet. It's only going to be on Amazon and Amazon Prime Video. And so there apparently now is a lawsuit saying that the producers of the new version used AI to recreate the voices of some of the characters, and I believe they're implying or they're issuing the complaint based on the original characters. I don't know how that works. Probably a flashback scene or something. You're not going to. I don't know if they're going to use the image of. I don't know if there's. I didn't know there was a connection. I thought it was just a separate, just kind of a relaunching of the storyline or something. But apparently, someone who was tied to the original movie is upset about them using AI. Hollywood is going to use AI, and Google is going to undo Google with AI, and it's going to look, you know what? Google's Gemini is the perfect result here and correlation with the remake of a great cult classic like Roadhouse. It can't possibly be great.
Great B-movie cult classic.
Yes, exactly. Yes.
By the way, I just don't think that Taylor Swift is going to be able to replace Jeff Healey as the house band.
No.
I'm just making that up.
Yeah,
it's not going to be Taylor.
But yeah, right. That
well, I don't know. I just threw that.
It could be.
I just made that up. Maybe
know.
It could be. Oh, look, at the last minute,
right.
Roadhouse, we got to put Taylor Swift in there.
Well, that's the thing is that each of the players in there was like, wow, well, that's Sam Elliott. That's Patrick Swayze.
Yeah.
Hey, that's Jeff Healey.
Yeah. And don't forget Red West.
Yeah.
College boys.
You college
boys, you got to get up. Okay, we're doing Baba Black Sheep.
Yeah.
Black Sheep Squadron, whatever they ended up. By the way, that was a good move because Baba Black Sheep just sounded like, Black Sheep Squadron.
Yeah. Elvis's childhood bully.
Yeah.
Red West.
Who became a bodyguard.
Ended up being part of what they called the Memphis Mafia.
Yes.
But his bodyguard. Yeah.
By the way,
close to Elvis.
We have the ability to evolve into a completely different topic from what we were originally talking about just moments ago.
I didn't mean to derail it because that really is kind of breaking news. If you don't know, that's a big deal. If you're learning it for the first time, that they did a remake of Roadhouse. Are you kidding me? Are you kidding me? So
and what is the best line that we have used from Roadhouse? I've actually used it with the caller.
You've used it. Used it. There are two great lines, and the one you're referring to is
opinions vary.
Yep.
And I've used it. I tell you, I've used that many times. I can't believe that you talked about this as a talk show host. What do you have to say about this? Opinions vary.
And the other one is, you're too stupid to have a good time.
Oh yeah, that's right.
Oh my gosh. Right. I mean, but there is a correlation in the two. Look, I don't dislike Jake Gyllenhaal's work. It's just a bad idea to do. If they came out and said, "Hey, we're remaking The Godfather," I know that the Roadhouse isn't The Godfather. To be clear, it's not. I know that, but in the people that it's become this B-movie cult classic that people just love. It's like Point Break with Keanu Reeves. They actually recreate Point Break on a live stage in bars all the time, where people play the different characters and they know all of the lines from the movie. That kind of, if you adhere yourself to a movie, then for you it might be just as good as The Godfather. But the thing is that the remake in people's minds was like, what? No, come on, you can't do this. You can't do this. This is a really bad idea. And it's a lot like the whole Gemini thing. Okay, you think that with your narrative, you're going to create what? These brilliant answers? Well, unless you're asking math questions, I don't know what Gemini's doing on math, because are they doing the Common Core math? What are they doing? What kind of math is Gemini going to use when you ask it that question?
We've got a great show ahead. I want to play this audio cut, and then what I want to get to first is, because I thought your analysis in our pre-show meeting on the judge yesterday and the partial relief effort from the civil fraud judgment against Trump. Mm-hmm. I thought you had a couple of. I just thought it was unique the way that you put it all together. So we'll get that coming up. But it was a fascinating day yesterday. I do want to play this here. This is because Hunter Biden, as we know, testified yesterday. You see the Fox News report, not denied by anybody, that the Democrats now do not want Hunter Biden to testify publicly.
Right.
That came out yesterday.
Yeah.
And this is after they came out. Here's Dan Goldman. And this is just, I burst out laughing when I saw this. Dan Goldman here talking about, and they were out. It was almost as if they came out, not when the questions were being asked, but right after Hunter Biden gave his opening statement.
Yeah.
And they came out because this thing wasn't done. I couldn't believe how early they were out. And here's Representative Dan Goldman yesterday.
There is a very understandable, coherent business explanation for every single thing that they asked for. And now that all of this China stuff or Romania or Kazakhstan is clearly baseless and...
Okay, now, he never explains. There's a very understandable, coherent business explanation, but never explained what that is for Hunter Biden.
Mm-hmm.
Never explained it.
Yeah.
And again, it's tough to figure out because there's so much we didn't see the transcript of the entire testimony, but it seems that Hunter Biden and even Goldman by saying that, there's only two possibilities. Biden was involved in it, or his entire family is corrupt, and for over a decade was using the legacy of Joe Biden and destroying it. Well, because as they've used as a defense, it was the illusion of influence peddling. The illusion. Right. Well, what does that actually mean? You and I have broken it down many times ago. Wait a minute. The illusion here means that the entire family, because they set up the LLCs, they set up all of the all of the bank accounts to enrich his entire family.
Right.
And so Jim and his brother Jim and Hunter, his son, are out there saying, Dad's going to do this, Dad's going to do this, Dad's going to do this, Dad's going to do this. We did find out that he said, oh, no, I was either drunk or high when I said my father was next to me. Mm-hmm. So what they're trying to tell you is that the entire Biden family has used Joe Biden. The entire family, remember, Joe loves his family. It's all about love. But his entire family hates him because they're attempting to destroy his legacy.
Right.
And Joe Biden hasn't figured that out yet because Hunter keeps using that as a defense. And then Goldman comes out and goes, there's a perfectly understandable, coherent business explanation. Well, please tell me what that is.
Tell me what it is. And my question, if with Hunter saying, my dad was not involved in my business, well, hold on a second. Did he benefit anyway monetarily? But just a simple question before we even talk about the business and who's connected directly to it. Did you give your father money?
Or any service.
Yes, any service
Right.
that would be of value. Was there any consideration?
Right, but that you don't need that in order to still get the president, because
you
if
don't.
if
but
he
the
does
thing
something,
is we already have it on record that did happen. So Hunter either has to lie about it or do this whole thing. Oh man, I was so on crack at this time. By the way, the other day when he said, he basically tried to be a hero. Me staying sober is good. Makes basically he was saying me being sober makes me a good American.
right, and staying sober,
Yeah,
is a benefit to democracy.
yeah, because otherwise, if he had finished the sentence, because otherwise, when I get drunk and high, I start getting all of the whole hey China, give me my money.
Wow, we could have drunk Patriotic Friday here on Red Eye.
All right.
We could
I'm
do
in.
shots and
I don't
everything
drink,
else.
but yeah.
And then people start complaining, going, well, you guys are drunk on the air. Because we're patriots and
We're good Americans.
We're saving democracy.
Yeah.
We're good Americans.
That's right. We're making America drunk again. Matta.
Because we care.
Because we're the station that cares.
We got a great show ahead. 866-90 Red Eye.
This report is brought to you by Shell Rotella. With advanced synthetic technology, is designed to help keep your rig running with more mileage and less maintenance. Tires command a lot of attention. As a top expense for drivers and a leading cause of CSA violations, any tire maintenance practice that can help extend tire life is worth consideration. Consider tire balancing, which can set you up for savings and a smoother ride before your tires touch the highway. Tire balancing corrects an uneven distribution of weight in tires and wheel assemblies and offers benefits like improved fuel economy, increased tire life, and reduced vibration. Unusual shaking in the seat, cab, or steering wheel is a warning sign your tires might need to be balanced.
Get in touch with Red Eye Radio, toll free at 866-90 Red Eye.
It's Red Eye Radio. He's Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. Also coming up on the show, we got so much going on. Mitch McConnell stepping down in November. That got a variety of reaction yesterday.
Yeah.
That we will, get to here in just a little bit. Oh, I just got to mention Jamie Raskin yesterday on the Hunter Biden investigation. We've heard no evidence of treason.
Treason?
Nobody's made that accusation on the right.
Yeah, you're the one. You're the only lawmaker I've heard. I mean, there may have been in the hallways somebody saying that word, but it's the first time that anyone has made that legal accusation.
Well, that's moving the goalpost a lot.
My question for Raskin is, whoa, treason. Are you talking treason? Let's talk treason now. You're the one that brought it up.
Right. What's the accusation of treason here?
Right.
Could you please explain that one? Which Republican said he committed, that he committed treason?
Right.
And I'm just like, whoa. It's like I'm expecting by Friday it'd be like, Hunter Biden, there's no evidence that he committed a genocide.
Right. Right. Or listen, just because the president took money for political favors for international entities doesn't make him a bad guy.
I like when Raskin, he was also asked, directly, what benefit did he bring to the board? Well, he's an Ivy League graduate. Okay, fine. He understands anti-Semitic. That's what I'm thinking. I go, okay, so what you're telling the American public, he understands anti-Semitism, Jewish hatred, the racism of critical race theory, and the absurdity of the liberal transgender activist movement. So what does it have to do with natural gas and energy?
Right.
I mean, I'm telling you. Oh, I love being a troll. It's fun being a political troll.
866-90-RED-EYE. Now's your chance to be the caller. Red Eye Radio.
And he's Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. So many stories yesterday, we forgot the top breaking news. Marianne Williamson is back in as a candidate for president on the Democratic side.
This just in, Marianne Williamson will still never be president of the United States. What in the world? No, really, guys, I mean it this time. I'm back on Facebook.
At 2 o'clock yesterday afternoon, she stopped reading palms and giving horoscopes and is back into the presidential race.
That's right. Her magic 8-ball told her, well, what was the one, like, probably thing that answer that it would give back in the day, the magic 8-ball? For those under the age of 90, the magic 8-ball. Remember that? No,
well,
we'll do
I remember it.
Yeah.
I remember it because it made it in popular culture with Putty's jacket on Seinfeld.
Yeah.
What's that? 8-ball.
8-ball. 8-ball.
8-ball, babe.
8-ball.
Yeah, but I was just laughing yesterday because everything was just so humorous. But let's get to the judge, the appellate judge yesterday in New York. Mm-hmm. Well, apparently Trump was everything that we heard before, that Trump could not appeal anything of the verdict until he paid the bond, wasn't true.
Right. Yeah, I think there was a lot of confusion on that. And there's also, you and I have been talking about this, but we talked about it briefly in the pre-show meeting, and that is the coverage of each of the steps in the process here has not been covered the way that it has in the past. I think Andrew McCarthy's done a really great job. In fact, he posted something this afternoon and then had to go back and update it this evening because of the decision by the judge. But what's interesting here on this is that the first thing that hit me when the news broke, that the judge says Trump has to pay this bond, because Trump was saying, basically, Trump's lawyers are appealing to the appellate court saying, we can only, anything over $100 million we can't afford. So $454 million, we can't do that. And the judge came back and said, no, you got to pay that, but we are going to give you a stay in that you can use your properties for leverage to seek a loan for the $454 million. But it still doesn't solve the problem that New York has long term. Beyond this, how this affects Trump or might affect the elections, this affects business in New York, this decision by the one judge. Now, you and I were in the pre-show meeting going over Andrew McCarthy's column there, the later one here from this evening at National Review, and he points out that Trump will have a chance with the full panel of appellate judges again to see if those, the entire panel will give him a different decision on the bond.
And that'll be on March 18th.
Right.
Before he has to pay on March 25th.
Yeah, 1 week out.
And this was interesting because he wrote this. He said, many observers familiar with New York practice assess that Trump has little chance of prevailing on the point that he shouldn't have to pay the bond. I am not convinced this is so. The amount of the judgment is so out of proportion with the wrong proved by the state, which was unable to prove that there were any fraud victims after 11 weeks of trial, that it may offend the higher court's sense of fairness. Like the Eighth Amendment to the federal Constitution, New York's Constitution explicitly forbids the imposition of excessive fines.
Well, that's, because this is the thing. When I saw it, I thought, well, wait a minute. It doesn't matter. Well, it does matter, but it doesn't give you complete relief and doesn't change a lot about the concern over businesses in New York. If that one judge, again, it may change on the, with the entire panel on March 18th. But even if he wins the appeal, ultimately, the fact that this judge said, no, you got to pay the bond is still damaging to New York. And if the 5-judge panel votes to uphold that and say, no, you got to pay the bond,
bye.
I don't know why you would stay in New York, as Andrew McCarthy points out. The Attorney General of New York State, she knew what she was doing because, look, you can't get a loan from any bank chartered in New York. Well, the majority of these banks, big banks that would, might be involved here, are chartered in the Empire State, as Andrew McCarthy points out. So you're blocking him in every direction from actually being able to achieve it, except sell your stuff and get out. That's basically what they were telling him. And then hope that you can't, because that would be it. His only relief here would have been to liquidate. Now, of course, the overall judgment saying, well, we're going to, force you to shut down and you can't do business anyway. But the immediate relief in terms of the bond required him to sell close to $500 million in assets because you can't get a loan.
Because the original judge said any bank that is chartered in New York cannot give you any loans.
Yeah. So just mentioned, yeah,
right, and so as was pointed out, almost every single major bank in the nation,
right,
that could loan you that kind of money is chartered in New York.
That was the play.
The entire thing was there was no fraud committed.
No.
You put
no victim.
You put a massive
no complaint.
You put a massive excessive fine that would make him sell all of his his business, well, a significant portion of his business, and get out. And remember, originally it was supposed to be James was looking for he could never do business, but really saying that they can't do business for 3 years is really the same, in my opinion, still the same kind of death penalty.
Right.
But you can't take out any loans. You can't appeal this until you pay the bond. Well, that ended up being false.
Right.
He can appeal it, and he'll appeal it to the appellate. You can't take out any loans, which means the only thing you can do is liquidate your assets in New York.
Right.
Well, if under that, and if the 5-court, as you said, appellate, the 5-person appellate judges say the same thing, how many businesses are going to say we're out of here?
Well,
we're completely out of here.
And that's the first thing that hit me, is that even if he wins the appeal, if it is and it remains the case that he has to post this kind of bond, because Andrew McCarthy makes the point, and I'm just a layman. He's a guy with tons of experience in this stuff, so I was happy to see him write this because it was what I was thinking all along. Well, this isn't proportionate at all. This isn't saying, we're going to fine you $10 million because we think you did something wrong, and, or your bond is $10 million or whatever it is. It's a crippling level that forces him to liquidate properties, which is ultimately the goal of the Attorney General, to kick him out of the state of New York. Well, in doing that, you're sending a message. I don't think James knows this or cares about this. Actually, I think she does know it. She doesn't care about the fact that everyone's watching this. It's not just truckers who are deciding not to run New York State anymore, take deliveries to New York State. It's how many businesses right now, how many of these banks that Andrew McCarthy points out are the majority of them chartered in the Empire State, as he writes. How many of them look at that and say, we don't think we can afford something like this? Because what happens if you get a board member or a CEO that, I don't know, becomes a regular on Fox News or Fox Business, and all of a sudden someone like Letitia James has an agenda? Well, this is a conservative here that's a CEO of said bank, and now we're going to go after them. If this is even if Trump wins on the appeal, if this bond thing stays in place as of March 18th, and that 5-judge panel decides the same thing as this judge, the one judge from the panel, then it's going to be long-term damage to the state of New York. There's no way around that, because I don't know why you would stay.
Well, we've asked this question before, since obviously this fine violates the Eighth Amendment to the federal Constitution.
Yeah.
And as Andrew McCarthy brought up, same with the New York Constitution that explicitly forbids the imposition of excessive fines, that I do believe at that point, I don't know if you can go in that quick of a time and get relief from a federal judge saying, sorry, you can't do that.
Right.
Because it's just, it's excessive.
Right.
I'm assuming that thought is in there. I don't know look, there's so many, this is, you and I were talking about this at the bottom of the hour. I've never seen a fine like this ever.
No, because I was saying, look, tell me where
right.
this has happened ever.
No.
In any civil setting against a business or an entity.
Even if there's been, clear fraud.
Right. That's a great point. Even if there is a complaint against them and it has been proven they did damage and committed fraud, show me where any company had a bond this big. I don't recall it. Maybe it happened. I don't remember seeing.
Here's what ultimately Trump may not prevail on the excessive fine claim, but one could easily see the appellate court reducing the penalty, perhaps drastically.
Yeah.
Indeed, in what was patently a politicized lawsuit brought by an elected progressive Democrat attorney general and presided over by an elected progressive Democratic judge, both whom were unabashed in their loathing of Trump. I believe the objective of the fine was to make it difficult for Trump to appeal.
Right.
Consequently, I could see the appellate court agreeing to allow Trump to post a bond in an amount substantially lower than the $454 million, with the provision that if James prevails on the full amount on appeal, she can seek to collect from Trump post appeal. Meantime, if Trump wins a resolution on appeal, a bond of much less than $454 million would cover it, because this thing is going to the federal courts.
Yeah,
I don't see how it's not going to the federal courts.
Yeah, it is.
Because it absolutely, if there was ever a textbook example of violation of the Eighth Amendment,
yeah, this is it.
This is it.
Well, and lowering the fine, not the bond, but the fine here. Okay, what do you send if the appellate court came back and said no? We'll lower the fine down to, your overall penalty is going to be $1 million. That is a cost of doing business based on what? If it's upheld, but they lower the fine amount and bring it down and say, all right, here's your fine amount. And, they're not going to take your businesses. You can still do business, but you got to pay this. You got to write a check to the Attorney General of New York. Well, then you're sending a message to the AG's office. And by the way, other states as well, not just New York, that you can come in and then go after them. And even if you don't get, massive amounts and shut them down completely, you apply now this new cost of doing business because we don't like the way you negotiated. That is dangerous.
Yeah.
If this is not dismissed completely and overturned completely, it will be a danger to business in New York going forward. There's no way it won't be.
866-90 Red Eye.
We'll be right back with more Red Eye Radio with Eric Harley and Gary McNamara.
It's Red Eye Radio. He is Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. Also coming up, Illinois. Illinois judge kicking Trump off the ballot. But again, it's all conditional on what happens in the appeal.
Right, yeah.
Also, the Supreme Court will review Trump's immunity claim, which, for all intents and purposes, pushes the January 6th trial back until after the election.
Right.
And because they won't hear it until like April 22nd, so the earliest would be June, but you don't know if that's some of the analysis I've seen on it.
Yeah,
that would still be at least till June, or even push back further.
Even further.
And there's no way you're going to be able to get into September, October. There's no way the Justice Department. Well, I won't say this. I won't say this. They did. There's no way the Justice Department would start the trial in October, because at that point it would say, okay, this is election interference without question.
Right.
It's the 60-day rule from the Department of Justice.
Right. Yep.
But look, nothing applies to Trump.
Well, it depends on, again, if Merrick Garland wants to fall on the sword, right, for the current president. And you see more and more that people on the left don't look like they're willing to fall on that sword. You know, there are a few of the surrogates out there going, no, the economy's fine. You know, Seth Meyers is laughing, yucking it up with the current president and laughing along with a falsehood about Trump calling his wife Mercedes. He wasn't referring to his wife, by the way. He was referring to Mercedes Schlapp, who was, part of the organization. And, of course, ha, 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 ha. But, that's the thing. There are no real defenders for the current president right now, and that should tell you something.
Top of the Hour News is brought to you by House Products. Visit houseproducts.com.
This is Red Eye Radio on Westwood One. Now, it's Red Eye Radio. Gary McNamara and Eric Harley talk about everything from politics to social issues and news of the day. Whether you're up late or you're just starting your day, welcome to the show. From the Uniden America Studios, this is Red Eye Radio.
All across America and around the world, thank you for being here. We are Red Eye Radio. He is Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. Hi, everybody. Well, wasn't the best of days for the mayor of Athens, Georgia yesterday, was it?
No.
Wow.
No.
Wow. I mean, he's out there yesterday talking about, the murder of, I've got mind blank here. Lincoln.
Riley.
Mm-hmm. Okay. You know something? I said it can't be Riley because I said I must be thinking Riley Gaines. That's why. So I knew the name. But Lincoln Riley and it just this is what I expected was eventually going to happen. People are fed up, and they're not going to be nice anymore. And when you have this, mayor trying to blame Trump and talking about the dignity of migrants when an American citizen has been killed, and that doesn't seem to bother him, you're going to get this kind of response. I'm going to play, we got a couple of audio cuts here. I'll play this first one here. Here we go. This is the mayor of Athens, Georgia.
Humanity is the expectation of human dignity. While 2019 was not that long ago, you might remember the dynamic we were living in the late teens in this country, where you had the President of the United States speaking in the most vile terms about people who were foreign born. And you had that notion metastasizing in places like Charlottesville.
This is an invasion! When I was younger, I was a criminal. And you know what I thought about doing? Crossing the border to Mexico to get away from my crimes.
Son, I'm going to ask you to leave.
Jesus Christ, he saved me, and I no longer live that lawless life, which you do.
Son, I'm going to ask you to leave.
You are lawless, Mr. Mayor.
I'll be glad to schedule some time with you if you'd like some individual time.
Yeah.
Okay, that's just a part of one of the audio cuts. This is the one I want to play here where it gets really loud, and you can hear a number of people going after him. And again, he brings up Charlottesville, which again was a lie.
It's a lie.
Brings up the Charlottesville lie again. Mayor Kelly Gertz is his name. And here we go. This is more of this.
And so that term means different things to different people depending on the context of the discussion.
We know what
Many-
it means.
Many of the elements.
Liar.
Many of the elements.
Liar.
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 We're here to listen.
Liar.
You're a liar.
We're here to listen.
Liar.
There'll be time for questions.
You are guilty and got blood on your hands for this murder, sir.
Many of the aspects that are ascribed to sanctuary cities
We know what sanctuary
are
city
things
means.
that are disallowed by Georgia law.
Sanctuary policy, which is what we do.
And we contribute a document every year to the Georgia Department of Audits indicating that we do not correspond to these definitions under state law.
Yes, you do.
And no policies have been adopted by the mayor and commission that have created sanctuary city status in Athens.
You need to resign.
One protocol that sometimes arises.
Resign!
Resign now!
You
One
allowed
protocol.
this to happen.
You don't hear that much in our society, do you?
Nope. But more and more Americans are done with the lies. Blaming Trump for everything.
Yeah.
Blaming Trump for the murder of Lake and Riley.
Mm-hmm. I mean, it's bizarre.
The guy who wanted to build a wall is to blame. The guy who wanted to increase enforcement on the southern border is to blame. Not only are you a liar, Mr. Mayor, you're weak. You've got absolutely nothing. Absolutely nothing. It's just like the left, though. I mean, this is right out of their playbook. Go back to Charlottesville. Go back the Charlottesville lie. It's a lie. It's a lie.
Who was it recently on the? Oh, it was the actor who said it. That he, Michael Rappaport.
Yeah.
Who a liberal.
Right.
Who said he bought into it. He was screaming Trump to this. He goes, then somebody told me, read the transcript. He didn't say that. They're lying about what he said. He said, I read the transcript. I went back, looked at it. You're right. I was lying. Everybody was lying about it on the left.
Right. No, they have to make it up. Now, sometimes Trump will say some things that don't make sense. But on these big items, they have to lie.
Yeah.
And, of course, the most recently was him calling his wife Mercedes. He wasn't referring to his wife. He was referring to someone named Mercedes.
By the way, I'm laughing. I don't know if you saw Derek Hunter's column. I don't know if it was Town Hall, whatever. And he just said, this is Trump's election to win. Will he blow it? So
Well, here's the thing. What it tells me, the judge in Illinois with taking him off the ballot, but, we'll wait for the appeals process. They really are throwing a tantrum. This is the left now in the legal setting throwing the tantrum. We've seen it with the cases against Trump. We've seen it with the AG of New York. We've seen it with, a number of things that, my gosh, the case in Georgia, which is imploding.
Oh.
And all of these things, we see it at that level. But the closer we get to the election, and they see the polls. Here's the thing. They see the polls where Trump is gaining, and I know it's an extra day of February today, leap day, but we're still in February, and they're seeing the polls head-to-head Trump versus Biden, and it doesn't look good. So you got to throw, if you're on the left, you got to throw everything you can. And there are things you can do and things you can't get away with. I don't know if Letitia James, the AG of New York State, what she believed, but she designed her entire case to essentially corner Trump into selling a bunch of his assets, whether he wins on appeal or not. That was the idea behind this large bond. Well, then you look at, the case in Georgia. And, you've got, in this case, down there, prosecution enriching her then boyfriend, who had no experience at this level, hiring him to come aboard the case. And we asked the question, well, my gosh, you look at the case, did you ever even, applying RICO, it doesn't apply here at all, but did you ever even care if you won? In that case, it doesn't look like you did, because it is, and she may be, I believe she is completely incompetent, but also she may have the mindset that, well, I don't care if I win. I'm just going to throw everything I can at him. This has been the play all along. And the closer we get to November 5th, the more you're gonna see these stories. You'll see, I'm sure, another state, another judge, well, we'll wait until the court case plays out, but off the ballot. Yeah, you got nothing. You're weak. The mayor of Athens has nothing. You're weak and you're a liar, and you know it. And your side is being hit over and over again with something called reality. None of this is in the abstract anymore. None of it. The border issue isn't, well, should we let people come here? Or should we let people stay in our city? Or should we? No, it's now an all-out invasion. And we have the murder of an innocent girl. And a mayor wants you to believe it's Trump's fault, the guy who was begging for money to build a wall. You're weak and you're a liar. It's pathetic, and he does need to step down. I'm telling you right now, over and over and over again, the radicals just show their own, their complete selves as they make moves like this, which are weaker and weaker and weaker. And what you heard there, the audio we just played you, was just one more indication that more and more Americans are done with this kind of garbage where you just try to shape a narrative with lies. It's over. Because I'll tell you what people remember, Mr. Mayor, about 2019. Their spending power was pretty great. That's what they remember about 2019. Having a president who didn't invite people here and then try and make excuses when they came here illegally and murdered people. That's what you had, and that's what the American people remember, Mr. Mayor.
When we talk about the abstract, and for new listeners out there, it's something that we've been very blunt about, which is it really doesn't matter who wins, the Democrats or Republicans, right now on many of these issues, because it's reality that is the biggest opposition to liberalism right now. And what has happened is everything, you look at every major issue, and nothing is in the abstract or hypothetical anymore. It's not anymore, well, look, if we raise the minimum wage to $50 an hour, it will benefit society. If we keep investing, which means taxing people and spending and borrowing money, it will bring us untold of wealth. All these things are falling apart. If we have an open borders like this is good for America because it shows that we are humane. Well, all this is being shown to be a load of crap. And it's not, you don't need the Republicans anymore. You don't need you do, but what I'm saying, it doesn't matter whether the Republicans are the opposition against you. Reality is the opposition against you.
Yeah.
And when you look at, for example, you look at EVs. Oh, it's going to be great. What's it now? Who else? Apple. Their research for their car. That's done now. They're out of the EV business.
Hey, guess what?
Mercedes-Benz is out of the EV business. The big three are saying we can't do this. When you look at the grid, and we can run this entire grid on solar and wind.
Yeah.
Well, you could say that until you actually start powering the grid with solar and wind to the point where now the emergency is out. The emergency warnings are out to every state in the United States that this isn't going to work. Why? Got nothing to do with Republicans opposing it. It has to do with reality.
Yes.
And borrowing, spending money. No. Debt doesn't hurt. We heard this just a couple of years ago.
Right.
Some of our listeners would call us and go, you guys, you've been obsessing about the debt. It's no problem. Well, problem.
Yeah.
Inflation.
Yep.
Inflation. And then the president trying to come out and, shrinkflation is the cause of inflation. Shut up.
And they're going to let him keep saying that.
I know. And so you look at it, and that's the point we're at. Now, we want the Republican and conservative opposition. What we're saying now is the biggest challenge for Democrats is reality is saying, sorry, all the stuff that you have said and promised is going to work isn't going to work.
Right. Exactly. Well, they really do buy into their own delusional world. I think Apple is one of those companies that actually believed, how hard could it be to build a car? Seriously. Goes back to city slickers. One thing.
Yeah.
Do the one thing.
Do the one thing.
You reshaped the entire world with what became the smartphone. Innovation. That's your wheelhouse, not actual wheels.
So that's and so we've talked about this, and again, with bringing up the same lies, Charlottesville again, it's like everybody knows it's a lie. And I'm so glad that Michael Rappaport, the actor, came out and said, he goes, look, I was saying the same thing. I never read the transcript.
Yeah.
I just believed what they told me. I never did my own fact checking.
Right.
Which is why we've always said, and we get, if we just make a mistake on something, because we never knowingly say something that is wrong. We may relate a story and get it wrong.
Right.
Or if we're doing something, and we'll admit it, that if we're doing something where we look at something and go, okay, I don't have the quote in front of me, but this is as close as it is. Once in a while, we'll make a mistake, and every time we do, we correct it. And we don't hide the correction because we don't wish to promote something that's untrue.
Right.
And we're humans, and since we do this 5 hours a day, 5 days a week, 25 hours a week, ad lib, we don't have a script in front of us or a teleprompter in front of us. Mistakes are going to be made, but we have no problem correcting it because the last thing we want to do is debate something that's false.
Right. I don't have a problem being wrong. It just rarely happens.
866-90 Red Eye.
Brought to you by FPPF, Fuel Power Max.
Smart owner-operators make every single week as profitable as possible. One trip is not enough time to be considered profitable or unprofitable, and an entire month may be too much time to manage. 1 week is the right amount of time to deal with efficiently. To do so, look at the advantages and disadvantages of every day of the week. Match trip length to the optimum day of the week. Plan to deliver on the day you have the best opportunity of getting a load. Your personal weekly plan will vary depending on the weekly delivery flow cycle of your region, typical length of haul, personal requirements, and other factors. What's important is to have a specific weekly plan that helps you be successful. Owner-Operator Business 101 is provided by Overdrive's Partners in Business program. Go to overdriveonline.com to the Partners in Business section of the website for more details on this and many other topics. Brought to you by Shell Rotella, with advanced synthetic technology is designed to help keep your rig running with more mileage and less maintenance.
Coming up, more with Gary McNamara and Eric Harley. It's Red Eye Radio.
It's Red Eye Radio. He is Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. Right, there's so many topics yesterday. The funny thing is, I went to sleep for my second nap because I take 2 naps a day. I went to sleep. I woke up. I'm like, come on.
Yeah,
there was too much when I went to sleep.
No, I clear the slate, when I lay down. But I've been sleeping earlier past few days, and then waking up at around 4 or 5 in the afternoon, and I wake up and it's like, are you kidding me? All the notifications on my phone, it was like, I'll never get through all these.
Well, we'll have some audio coming up, but the decision to, at the last moment, to create a buzz that the president was going to get his physical, and then the response from the media afterwards and the justification for him not having a cognitive test. They've
just made it worse.
There is no self-awareness at all. None.
They just made it worse.
And I'm not coming at this as a partisan. I'm coming at it if I was a consultant to the White House.
Yeah, no,
I'd be
seriously.
Going, what the hell are you doing?
Well, I was telling you during the break, earlier, the so-called intellectual left has to be out of their mind right now. By the way, I don't refer to them as the intellectual left. They refer to themselves as that. In fact, I think they put it on all their own business cards.
All right, then what you need to do is say, quote, intellectual
That's why I
left.
said so-called.
Quote.
Yeah, that's why I said so-called.
Okay.
The so-called intellectual left has to be losing their mind right now.
You need to say the so-called and quote.
Gary, whether I need to use both is a complicated question, and there is no definitive answer. I'm gonna Gemini that one. But did you just Gemini at the drive-through? Can I take your order? Can you take my order is a complicated question.
And remember, we said it here first.
Yeah.
Google Gemini is actually the brain of Karine Jean-Pierre.
We believe so.
Yeah.
Yep.
You're listening to Red Eye Radio from the Uniden America Studios.
It's Red Eye Radio. He is Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. Good morning. Oh. Can I take a
Seriously, with the news yesterday, it was nonstop. Oh, man. And then
what?
Richard Lewis. What a bummer that was. It was so it was unexpected. I knew that he had been diagnosed with Parkinson's.
Yeah.
For someone who was just adhered, I would sneak to watch The Tonight Show back when it was 90 minutes. And the houses that we lived in at the time just created opportunity where I could either look around the corner of my bedroom door or in the reflection of a window or something, I could see the TV and hear it at the same time. And comedians like Richard Lewis, especially in the 80s and 90s, were a mainstay. He was the godfather of self-deprecating humor.
Mm-hmm.
You know? I mean, there was, and the way he would touch his forehead, you know, and do this, and just every time he was going to make an appearance on TV, for me it was, I got to see this. I got to see this. Back before even VCRs or any way to record it or watch it on demand, so you had to make an appointment to, if you heard he's going to be on somewhere, you wanted to see it, you wanted to watch it, and he was just funny. He was diagnosed not too long ago with Parkinson's, and then the report came out yesterday that Richard Lewis, comedian, passed at the age of 74 from a heart attack, after a heart attack. And he had talked about it. I've only seen moments from Curb Your Enthusiasm. I don't have HBO. I know what I've seen from it. It's funny. He fits that cast and has been on that cast for a while. And he fits that cast perfectly, if you think about it. And was part of, I didn't know this either. It's the final season, right? I guess that's airing right now. I think it's airing on HBO or just aired. And that's the perfect setting for Richard Lewis. If you're going to put him in any kind of setting, he's kind of playing a fictional version of himself. And, you know, it was I'm sure it was perfect. I didn't get to see it, but I plan to watch it. Self-deprecating humor is to me, can be very funny. Sometimes you see people just kind of go overboard, and in my opinion, they try too hard. Richard Lewis was always innovative. It just kept getting worse and worse and worse. And by that, I mean the self-deprecating part of it just kept going, and it made it funnier and funnier and funnier with every next line.
Well, a lot of stand-up comedians, even though, they decide to enter acting, some are great, some aren't.
Yeah.
What really sticks out of my mind, the one appearance that he had, I don't know if you remember when he was on 2.5 Men.
Yeah.
And he was Charlie's financial counselor.
Yeah.
And Charlie had gone through Charlie was basically bankrupt.
Yeah.
And he said, well, let's go to my financial counselor. And you go there, and there's police tape in front of the door. And you open it up, and it's like, who's there? Who's there? And it's Lewis, and he was just fantastic.
So funny.
In that short segment. It wasn't a long segment. It was just it was probably only maybe 2-3 minutes.
Right.
But it was just like, that's the kind of financial guy Charlie would hire. But
and you can compare the with Martin Mull, also a comedian from the same era.
Yeah,
who played the pharmacist on 2.5 Men.
What are you, a cop?
What are you, a cop? Oh my gosh, it was perfect casting. No one else could pull that off the way that Martin Mull pulled that off.
When Charlie would go into the pharmacy and he'd be chugging the cough syrup with the codeine, not just regular cough syrup, but the prescription cough syrup with the codeine. And he's like, "Hey, Charlie, but take a swig of it."
It was just hilarious,
but
Richard Lewis was one of those comedians because of his demeanor that would kind of make you a little nervous in watching his demeanor, but then totally bring the comic relief, of course, with his humor, with his lines, which would then just take it to a whole other level. It was a really great, for me at least, my experience, a really great kind of a roller coaster ride, because you see a guy that looks like he's struggling, and he was kind of that way. I don't think he was completely that way in real life, but he was kind of that way, but still the persona, his delivery, the way he presented was, oh man, this guy looks really stressed. And then he would just deliver the funny every time.
Yeah, you always got the role he was playing out there as a stand-up comic.
Yeah.
Was the fact that I don't have it together.
Yeah.
I just
I
don't have any. Exactly. You got the impression I have nothing together
I'm such
whatsoever.
A mess.
I'm hanging by a shoestring.
Yeah. Well, and it's I think when you look at that kind of comedy, but that era of comedy,
because you got to say he basically was a 70s and 80s comedian.
Yeah, I mean, really, if you think about it, it really was. Let's see here. This is funny. Here are a couple of his lines. Most Texans think Hanukkah is some sort of duck call. And you can't, the thing is, you can't do it unless you could do a really good impression of his demeanor, because he also didn't deliver like any other comedian. The way that they accentuate words and everything else, the punch would sometimes almost be understated compared to the setup. He would say it very quickly, and it made it even funnier, because it was like the punchline was almost a matter of fact as a part of the entire equation or storyline that he's putting out there for you.
I was thinking that Seinfeld was asked the question one time about comedians that not all of them are precise, and he said all the good ones are. He said every stand-up comic, anyone that's in the circuit is precise. Now, it's whether they're funny, but they're precise. The thing about Lewis, though, is his preciseness was the image that he was not precise on anything.
Yeah.
That's what I always got out of him.
Right.
Like, it was always like just drifting. And that's a wonderful thing to do, when you can go out there and pretend that you're just this drifting person. Because even if you see, for example, Larry the Cable Guy for the act that he's playing, he's very, very precise and delivers on those jokes. Boom, 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 boom. It was it was almost as if Lewis. You're going to show me a picture.
Well, no, go ahead and finish that thought. But I have a line.
But it was almost as if he was just drifting from topic to topic at
Well,
times.
well, that's it. He was just kind of rambling, and that's why those lines, the punchlines, were kind of understated, and it was just kind of as a matter of fact in the entire, trying to line out his really bad day. Case in point, here's a line from him. My act is always a work in progress. I pray I have a bad day before a show, because that was the essence of his routine.
Yeah, exactly.
And it was, it was great. I don't know. I mean, there were a lot of, okay, Dangerfield, I get no respect. And then he would just, boom,
yes.
kill it.
Boom,
just
boom, 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 boom.
Just crush it.
Right.
Lewis had the same thing in a different way, in his own way, and I don't know of any other comedian that delivered it that way. I just don't. It was just because, well, you felt sorry for him. This is the thing that what I've noticed. I thought, why was I attracted to stand-up comedy about the time I remember, basically 4 or 5 years old? What is it? And what comedians really stood out with me? It was the ones that had, and many of them have it, this level of vulnerability. Richard Pryor had it. John Candy had it. These are comedians when you look at them and you can see sometimes a little bit of sadness in the eye. Well, Richard Lewis's entire routine was about his vulnerable, persona and how bad his day was and the whole thing. And that's what it is for me. It's that you see that, and yet they bring that brilliant comedy and make everybody in the room laugh, where there's a little bit of something in their eye that tells me that person may be going through something. Chris Farley, same thing. And there are other comedians out there that
right,
kind
but
of
Chris
have
Farley really wasn't a comedian.
Well, I mean, he was, because they did a lot of improv stuff.
Yeah, but okay,
John
but that's
Candy,
more,
same thing.
But he wasn't a stand-up comic where
No,
he would
but still a
stand on
comedian.
stage, right? I just view what he did as different than one person standing on the stage. That's all.
Well, I mean, I would say that the improv stuff is the exact same thing. I mean, you've got to be creative, and you've got to be creative on the fly. You got to bring the funny on the fly, and so you're taking things that you probably stored in your memory bank, and bringing those to the table on the stage. And that requires, a lot of work. But the vulnerability part of it, to me, was always something, and I didn't notice it until, I don't know, it was probably maybe 20 years ago before I noticed why there were certain comedians that I was drawn to. Dave Chappelle, the same thing. Dave Chappelle it doesn't mean they're weak people. It just means that they often are thoughtful and can be, considerate. That's kind of what you're looking for. It's that vulnerability in their eye doesn't make them weak. It makes them, in my mind, more thoughtful, which means it's probably the key to them being so great.
Well, no, I think you're right on with Chappelle there when you say Chappelle has that vulnerability, because you look at his face, and his face alone isn't aggressive.
Right.
It's not even though the things that come out of his mouth are extremely blunt and aggressive for stand-up comedy, routine. He has those eyes that have that sadness to it. I agree with you on that one.
And selflessness. That's the other thing too. You've got to have, the one thing about Richard Lewis, any self-deprecating humor is selfless. In fact, it is maybe a great example of the ultimate selflessness, because you're willing to put yourself out there and kind of make fun of yourself, and you're the butt of your own jokes. And that selflessness also, works in delivering that comedy. If you're a fan of comedy, you realize, well, of course, you have to be selfless if you're going to be a great comedian. You got to be selfless. There's got to be some self-deprecation along the way for each of them. And, that then brings them to the point of being able to deliver that comedy to the audience. And that is what is utmost of importance. That's what means something to them, is to make everyone in the room laugh. That's what it's all about.
Yeah, it was sad to hear that yesterday.
Yeah, Richard Lewis.
Yep. 74, I think.
Dead at the age of 74. Rest in peace.
866-90 Red Eye.
Lines open for your calls. 866-90 Red Eye on Red Eye Radio.
It's Red Eye Radio. He's Eric Hurley, and I'm Gary McNamara. Coming up following the top of the hour, Mitch McConnell stepping down as minority leader of the Senate. We will get to that. Karine Jean-Pierre, and this was just yesterday in the president's physical. It was just you just shaking your head saying there is no self-awareness in this White House at all.
Yeah.
I mean, they almost do everything wrong. In the marketing,
right.
You know, in the marketing of what they're doing to the American people, it's like they have no self-awareness where the American people are right now. It's almost like the mayor of Athens, Georgia, yesterday, and the people, the citizens there, screaming at him. No self-awareness as to where the public is at whatsoever. None. Absolutely none.
No, and it has me wondering: Are you in such a delusional state for so long that now you're just blind to it? You can't see it. You're incapable of seeing it?
Wouldn't it be, I would just love, I mean, it would never happen, but I would just love to be able to be a fly in the wall in this White House for a day.
Oh, yeah. Oh, man.
Just to see how they come to these decisions.
Oh, yeah.
What is the process of it and what the debate is inside the White House, if there is any debate.
Right.
Wow. There may not be any debate.
This is Red Eye Radio on Westwood One. Now, it's Red Eye Radio. Gary McNamara and Eric Harley talk about everything from politics to social issues and news of the day. Whether you're up late or you're just starting your day, welcome to the show. From the Uniden America Studios, this is Red Eye Radio.
All across America and around the planet, we are Red Eye Radio. I'm Gary McNamara. He's Eric Harley. Good morning. How you doing? How's it going?
Meh.
What's up? All right, let's start off this hour with some fun.
Okay.
Karine Jean-Pierre. Let's play some audio yesterday.
All right. What do you got?
This is on Biden visiting the border after Trump announced he was visiting the border.
Me too. I'm going too.
I thought they'd do what they did with East Palestine, which is Trump's going, we'll go a year later.
Right.
Therefore, we can't be associated with Trump. Oh, yeah, that's really good.
You know, during the Trump presidency, there's only one place that Trump visited more than the border, and that's Mar-a-Lago. With Biden, what is this, his second trip to the border? He went to El Paso, right? Well, near the border.
Near the border, right.
Trump was, I'm pretty sure Trump was actually standing in the Rio Grande. I may be wrong on that.
He went
Maybe
across.
not.
No, he went across the other side, pulled out an automatic weapon, was shooting at the cartels. Don't you remember that?
Firing into the air. Yeah, exactly.
No, I think he did go. Trump did go once to check on the solar panels on the wall.
And the sponsorship of the wall.
Right.
Like the NBA games.
Did he? I can't remember. Did he actually say sponsorship?
No, we did.
Oh, okay.
That was our idea.
Okay, because
You could have rotating billboards.
Oh, okay, I was like, no, he really didn't say that. Dude, you could sponsor it. I
No,
wasn't sure.
that was our idea. It was like, no,
Okay.
forget the solar panels.
Yeah.
No, sponsorship.
But here is Karine Jean-Pierre yesterday on this one. Here we go.
The former president, his people are saying that the only reason President Biden is going this week is because former President Trump was going to go and he wanted to not lose this issue. So can you give us a sense of what the planning process was to go this week?
Look, you guys have covered this president and other presidents for some time. We just can't all of a sudden put something on the president's schedule, right? It takes time to do that. The president has been very clear that he was going to take this issue directly to the American people.
What does that? What does that mean? You didn't answer the question. But she did start out, like I said, with we've talked about Karine Jean-Pierre, how she'll, when she's at a loss for an answer, which is every single question, she will state the obvious.
Yeah.
Well,
right. Listen.
You've covered presidents before. They just can't decide. Yeah, actually, presidents can decide to do something. Remember, Biden's schedule is free most of the time. Mm-hmm. If Biden wishes to go to the border tomorrow, he can go to the border tomorrow.
Yeah, he's president. He can do that.
He can do whatever he wants. Well, no, a president can't. Yeah, he can.
Yeah.
I mean, Secret Service will throw a fit, but he can.
He can do it. He could say, 5 days within that time period, put me at the border. By the way, she is correct. He did bring this issue straight to the American people.
To New York, Chicago, Los Angeles.
Right to their own neighborhoods.
Border cities, that's right. It's brought
Keep in mind, the majority of people, all of those people that were sent to those cities were sent by the federal government, not states.
Well, and even if you're going to blame Governor Abbott for it, Governor Abbott would have never been able to do it if Biden didn't rescind all of the executive orders from Trump.
Yeah.
That would have never happened.
Right.
All right. Let's go here to a reporter asking, what do you say to the people who think Biden's sudden border visit is just an election year stunt after he ignored it for 3 straight years? Here we go. All right.
What do you say to people, though, who think that this is just an election year stunt? Finally hearing about the border after it's been a problem for the last 3 years.
Here's the thing. Here's what I would say. On the first day of this president administration, he put out a comprehensive immigration policy to deal with this issue. He did that on the first day. That was his first piece of legislation. I would hope the American people would see how serious this president was or is about fixing this issue.
Yeah. Careful.
Oh, my God.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah. Uh-huh.
Oh, wow.
Right, yeah.
And
serious.
It's
serious business. No joke.
No joke. Jack, what are you laughing about,
Come on,
Jack?
Come on, Jack.
Jack?
No joke. Yeah.
Every time he says Jack, every time he says it, I think of John Lovitz and Seinfeld.
Yeah.
When he gets the hairpiece.
Yeah, Jack.
Take a look at this, Jack.
Take a look at this, Jack.
All right, now,
Oh, my gosh.
the question on his physical yesterday, okay?
Yeah.
Here we go.
Yeah,
all right.
We're trying to get back to the norm that it used to be, where doctors don't come to the briefing room. It is not the norm. It is not. It has happened a couple times over the 35 years, but it's not the norm.
So the excuse of not allowing Biden's doctor, when the vast majority of the nation's population believe he has cognitive problems, the reason you don't bring the doctor in, especially after we know there was no cognitive test done to ask the doctor why not, it's because you're trying to get back to the norm.
Yeah. It's just not normal.
And let's get to more on that. Here we go. Let's get to more. Here we go.
Why is President or your office not willing to make Dr. O'Connor available to us? Just answer questions here. Previous presidents have put their doctors up at that lectern. Why not?
So a couple of things, Andrew. And the president said that they thought he was too young. So, you heard from the president. He talked about this.
Do I have to go any further?
Nope. No.
Is there no self-awareness at all as to what the public is thinking?
It is like it's like arguing anything with a teenager.
I know.
And the reason a teenager doesn't have self-awareness is because they're not really old enough to have it in that moment. They think they're making a good argument and putting themselves further into the hole.
So the reason is because the president is so young, there's no need for the doctor because nobody inside the administration and nobody in the United States must be questioning his cognitive abilities.
Yeah.
I mean,
Look, it's not even there. There's not even no.
And let's hear more on this here. Here we go. All right.
I think folks need to understand that the president passes, again, a cognitive test every day.
No, he doesn't. Not
Actually,
with the American public, he doesn't.
No. See, let me tell you, Miss Karine Jean-Pierre, the people that are asking you those questions have been covering the White House for many years.
Yes.
And they see it. They're asking these questions for a reason, because the American people are concerned about it. If the American people weren't concerned about it, Pete Ducey would still ask the question, but he might be the only one. They're not asking this question because they're curious themselves. Their viewers, their readers want to know what's going on with this president, and he is failing the cognitive test every day.
They think he looks too young. I mean, that was the Biden said that, but let's be honest. We make comparisons. My father in a few weeks is going to be 98.
Wow.
My father because of the stenosis in his back, he's leaned over and all that, and so his physical abilities are gone. But my father's mental abilities are much better than Joe Biden.
Oh, when my father's eyes are very much aware. You can see it in because that's the thing. You see it in the eyes. You see when someone is confused. Anyone who has dealt with any family member with any cognitive issues and dementia, we see it. We know it. We deal with it. I'm dealing with it on a couple of fronts right now in my family, as millions are. And you understand the moments where they aren't clear, and you also understand, and you're still grateful for those lucid moments, and they come and go. But you know the times where there is that confusion, and they are clearly lost. At 81, he's a very old 81, and that's the thing. We're having this conversation, they want it to be about his age. It's not about his age. It's about his situation. Warren Buffett is, 93? We looked it up the other day, 93, 94? Mm-hmm. Now, he's not going to get, he's not going to be out there playing a game of pickup basketball. But if you sit down with Warren Buffett, you know that, okay, when he says something, and it's why the entire financial world, as the head of Berkshire Hathaway and the founder of Berkshire Hathaway, they look at him as, what do they call him, the Oracle from Omaha? By the way, I had planned on using that name for myself. I was born in Omaha, and he took it. I just want to say that. You can see it in their eyes. You know when they're making that connection. You know when they're lost and they're not there. That's the thing. Millions of families like ours who are dealing with this in this moment, right now, see the telltale signs of this. And he's a very old 81. That's a problem.
Well, you and I were talking about, Mitch McConnell stepping down. And if you just asked me, how old is Mitch McConnell, I'd say 88, 89.
Yeah, he looks very late 80s. Yeah.
He's 82.
Right. Yeah.
And
and his illness has been a big part of that. It's
right.
been, over the years, it's been, and I think in recent years, it's played out to, I don't know if that was what was behind his moments where he kind of blinked out during press events, but, certainly something was going on.
Yeah. So we're not, again, this is
simple observation.
The simple observation of human beings,
of reality.
And when they get old and, they're attempting to gaslight you. Oh, no, he's just so young. He doesn't need they think he looks so young. He doesn't need a cognitive test.
Right.
And you made a great point that when, you can tell if, number one, if you've ever been a public speaker.
Mm-hmm.
And if you're a public speaker, you're looking around.
Mm-hmm.
You're looking around. You're looking at the audience. You're moving your head back and forth.
Mm-hmm.
You recognize people there. If you look at Biden, it's straight ahead. But you look at McConnell, too.
Yeah.
McConnell is, he's not as bad as Biden, but he, when he gets up there, you can tell he's just reading. You don't see what I think you see in younger human beings, which is as you're speaking and looking at the teleprompter, you're also observing everything around you,
right?
Which means your brain is processing a number of different things. What's on the teleprompter, the crowd reaction, making sure in your mind the crowd, whoever's out there, the audience needs to know that I'm looking at them because that's part of it. You're turning your head, you're looking. You sit there for a moment if you make a point, with your hand and you're looking a particular direction, like you're looking at a group of people over there. It's something that you just know when you're in public office, that's what you do.
Yep.
And so that's how you can see part of the cognitive abilities go away. But it was almost to the point of gaslighting yesterday when, said when Biden comes out, they think I look too young. And she said the same thing. Well, one of the reasons a doctor isn't up here is because he looks so young.
You're not going to win that.
You're not. Yeah, you're just not going to win that.
You're not going to win it.
The American people look at you and say, this isn't political. And that's why you have such a great number of people that believe Biden is way too old to run.
Right.
And that his cognitive abilities are being questioned by the vast majority of Americans. And they simply are saying, you don't know what the hell you're talking about.
Right.
That's not the case. Well, then have him take a cognitive test. No, because he's just so young, he doesn't need to do that.
Right. And, this is the problem over and over again, is that we know it. We've seen it. We know the signs. And it's not like it's temporary and then it improves. It keeps getting worse with age. And no, he's not very young. He's an old 81. And that's saying something.
Yeah.
He appears to be someone who is in his mid to late 90s. And that is saying something when you're 81. You and I were talking off the air, and I could say the same for my dad. My dad was 81 10 years ago. Man, at 81, my dad was still RVing, and there were a lot of things that, he was doing. My dad's had his share of illnesses and everything else. He'll be 91 here soon. And he is, but he still gets around. He's slower, but he still gets around and could run circles around the current president. The president, there's another thing. The way the president walks, it's a demonstration of an illness. It is not smooth. It's almost like he's having to deliberately think about each step, because you do have to use your cognitive abilities when you're walking. Most of us aren't aware of that. We're not consciously, telling ourselves to put the next step, in front, but we do. I have a special needs daughter, and her condition, it causes her to be at times clumsy. And it's just one of the things that comes with that condition. Your cognitive abilities are imperative in balance and being able to walk. And when you see him, it's like he's really having to try hard to walk, just to walk.
866-90-RED-EYE.
Get in touch with Red Eye Radio, toll free at 866-90-RED-EYE.
It's Red Eye Radio. He is Eric Hurley, and I'm Gary McNamara. Supreme Court to hear the immunity claims. We'll get to that. Mitch McConnell, also coming up here in a little bit. In this headline, a fourth witness puts Biden at center of son's business. We'll get to that. And also, what was the other thing I wanted to bring up? Oh, yeah. It was Chuck Ross from the Daily Caller when it came out. You know, the Biden says that his father was not there. That he was either drunk or high when he told the Chinese executive that his father was there, right there, and he better do something, or you get the wrath of his father.
Right.
That his father was not there. Ross said the interesting thing is on that day there's photographs of him with his father at the house.
Yeah.
I went, didn't know that one.
Right.
Okay.
Well, we had asked that question, is there any confirmation that they were in the same room or in the same location at the time that text was sent?
Yep.
So.
Yeah, Chuck Ross is saying, yep, yes, there is. They were in the same place that day.
Yeah.
And it's like, okay. And
starting to come together.
Well, it's like I said, when the Democrats came out so early, it was so early and came out and said, there's nothing there, there's nothing there, there's nothing there. I went, whoa. And then when you got to the fact of the Fox News report and other reports out there, it wasn't just Fox News, stating now the Democrats don't want Hunter Biden to, have a public appearance before Congress. You went, what's going on now?
You're listening to Red Eye Radio from the Uniden America Studios.
It's Red Eye Radio. He's Eric Hurley, and I'm Gary McNamara. Welcome and good morning. Thank you very much for being here. Download our Red Eye Radio app today, and you can listen when and where you want if you can't listen overnight to one of our great radio station affiliates.
And thank you.
Yeah. All right, Mitch McConnell out.
Yeah.
Not surprised. We've been saying for the last couple of years that he should leave. A lot of criticism about him. You have to put McConnell, I think, in his reign, which was since 2007, I believe.
Yeah, he's the longest running Senate leader.
Yeah.
In history, is that right?
Yep.
Yeah.
And there's we've been when it comes to things like the debt and budget and stuff like that, we've been harping on that for years. The reason McConnell has to go, number one, is he's old. Number two, he doesn't communicate as effectively as he should. And on things that are conservative, that are very serious right now, like the budget, he doesn't seem to get it. But that being said, the demonization of McConnell, as I saw yesterday on social media from many Republicans, is uncalled for. Trump would be toast if it wasn't for Mitch McConnell.
Yeah.
He'd be absolutely toast right now.
Right.
Why? The Supreme Court of the United States and its makeup. You said yesterday again that when we had the late Andrew Breitbart on the show just weeks, very within maybe 10 days, I think, before he died. It was very close, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was just a matter of days before he passed.
Yeah. And this was back in, was it 2011? Was it 2011, 2012?
It was 2012. Yeah. It was February, I think, of 2012.
And the question was, and he talked about the question he always gets, why should we vote for Mitt Romney?
Yeah, that was the question I posed to him.
Right. And it was one thing, the Supreme Court.
Yep.
And the court system in general. In general, the Senate confirmed 234 judges during Mr. Trump's term, 54 circuit nominees, 3 Supreme Court justices. And remember, not only did McConnell refuse to allow confirmation. Let me find it here. I want to find it from the Wall Street Journal. Had a great sentence on it.
Yeah.
Here it is. Mr. McConnell's most lasting accomplishment was remaking the federal judiciary. The leader's refusal to allow a confirmation vote to replace the late Justice Scalia on the Supreme Court ahead of the 2016 election was a political gamble for the ages that took steely nerves and credibility with his GOP colleagues. Mr. Trump would not have won without that open Supreme Court seat as a motivation for millions of conservative voters.
Yep.
The Senate confirmed 234 judges, 54 circuit nominees, 3 Supreme Court justices. In 2017, McConnell helped Neil Gorsuch win confirmation by finishing what Democrat Harry Reid had started, breaking the filibuster for judicial nominees.
Yep.
McConnell warned the Democrats in 2013, I say to my friends on the other side of the aisle, you will regret this, and you may regret it a lot sooner than you think. He warned Democrats in 2013. He was right. Mr. McConnell held his members together against ferocious attacks against Justice Kavanaugh in 2018 and quickly moved Justice Amy Coney Barrett through the Senate in 2020. Trump will never admit it, but Mr. McConnell did the heavy lifting, legislative lifting, to pass Mr. Trump's 2017 tax reform, and he came within a vote of repealing the Affordable Care Act. He's been a stalwart supporter of the First Amendment against attacks disguised as campaign finance reform. And then they go on to say we had disagreements with him there. But that legacy, but the biggest legacy still today is the judiciary, and especially the Supreme Court. And Trump would be toast if it wasn't for McConnell right now, because you would not have a majority of judges that care about what the Constitution actually says.
Right. Oh, no, it was critical. The blocking of Merrick Garland. I mean, that was, it does go back to what Andrew Breitbart told us. It is all about SCOTUS. There are times when Chief Justice Roberts, Obamacare, and at least a couple of other times, disappoints, and we can disagree with those who are, we believe are, for the most part, constructionists. But knowing the makeup of the court, seeing the makeup of the court where it is now, and knowing those steps that were taken, it doesn't excuse away completely some of the issues that we had with McConnell. There are a number of them, but it certainly trumps everything in that I would take that all day, because the Supreme Court is where everything starts and ends. Imagine if it were mostly liberal justices on the bench. I try not to imagine that.
Well, on a civil case, I think eventually it'll be the Supreme Court of the United States that will overturn it.
On the New York civil case?
New York civil case.
Yeah,
I mean, it may.
On Trump.
We may be surprised. It may happen before you get to that point. But
I think you're right. I've always envisioned it, because we kind of, climb that ladder very quickly, going, okay, then, we see that if they don't do it at the appellate level, then the Supreme Court, we believe, there's a very good chance they would overturn this.
Right. I think on January 6th, they'll look at it and say, no, those are his official duties. He has immunity for that.
Right.
On that one. And for these states that are trying to get him kicked off the ballot, again, it will be the Supreme Court that will come in and I believe do the right thing. But in doing the right thing, they ensure that Trump has the ability to be president of the United States in the way that the Constitution designates that this republic do things.
Right. Yeah.
And it's that simple.
Yeah.
So you can criticize if we have, and we believe McConnell should have been gone for a few years now because we believe that the entire Republican Party has not been strong enough concerning the debt.
Yep. No, that's the first thing that comes to my mind with McConnell is spending, and then the going back and forth, and then every time we heard, framework. Look, he reminds me of Boehner, the former Speaker of the House. We don't like messy. A guy who then immediately went to work for a tobacco company, and that's actually the truth. and number two, it's like it's just amazing to me, because I do put that up there, but the Supreme Court is where everything starts and ends. We, as a nation, have to decide on our national debt. We as a nation had to put the pressure on them. I would say also during the Trump years, especially the first 2 years, not pushing harder to get the whether it was the border wall or whatever it was going to be, but he was asking for the wall, and the GOP had those first 2 years and didn't get it done for him or with him. Number one, consensus building is part of the president's job, so that falls in part on Trump. But also, number two, consensus building is certainly the Senate Majority Leader's job. And there should be, that kind of, bringing that about to making the border secure and getting the job done and setting aside the personal conflicts or personality conflicts that are always at play on Capitol Hill and the White House. You look at where we are on the border right now, and had the GOP in those first 2 years been stronger, it would have been, I believe there's a case to be made. I can't say definitively. There's a case to be made that we wouldn't be in the same situation we are now. It would still be bad with Biden because he reversed so many things and did it with executive orders, but I do believe that there would be a stronger border going into the Biden years.
Well, the thing is, he would have never got it past the 60-vote mark.
Well, that's,
McConnell would have never got that's where McConnell wouldn't have gotten it.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. But still, building that consensus, it seemed like was impossible on too many fronts within his own party, even if he, obviously he's not going to be able to do it with the left. But within his own party, he still at times seemed, it's not that he didn't have the ability, I guess is my whole point. It's that he didn't have the will at times in the recent years, in the last 2 to 3 years. And that, especially to me, is concerning. This is why many of us were calling for him to be out.
Well, when it comes to communication, most Republicans suck at it.
Mm-hmm.
You look at, for example, I saw part of the criticism, the budget and Ukraine. And we stated this before, that those in favor of supporting Ukraine should have, from the very beginning, talked about what the specific goals should be and explain to the American public how we need to blunt Putin at every point. But you've got to the point here where you've got some Republicans, still a minority, and conservative media pundits that are giving the impression that Putin is a good guy.
Yeah.
That's insanity.
Yeah.
And I'll throw that right back at Tucker Carlson, but Tucker Carlson's talking about the fact that the UFOs are actually spiritual beings that are somehow communicating with with our leaders. With our leaders. So Tucker Carlson's gone off the deep end.
Yeah.
On that one. Right. So anything he says after that point
has to be questioned.
He's lost credibility completely.
Yep.
And then the interview with Putin, I do believe he was Putin's tool. Being in that supermarket destroyed his credibility completely.
Well,
talking about the great life that Russians lead, he's out of his frickin' mind.
In the Soviet Union during the communist era, during the actual communist era, not the pseudo-communist era that we live in now. During that communist era, they were the kings of what we call misinformation, propaganda. He's the king. I had a family member call me and say, hey, what do you think from the interview? And we had about an hour-long discussion. I said, what do I think of what? Well, first of all, do you have a problem with Tucker sitting down with him? Nope. Well, what do you think about some of the things that Putin said? I don't put credibility in one thing that he says because they're the kings of propaganda, always have been. This is a guy who is not to be trusted ever.
Head of the KGB under the Soviet
Exactly.
Union. And so, like I said, but this is where you need a strong response, and he doesn't have the ability to communicate anymore.
Mm.
He doesn't have to communicate. He doesn't have the ability to sell, because it's more than just keeping your party united. It's also about communicating with the American public.
Yeah, though someone used the term, was it Wall Street Journal, the brass knuckle tactics of whatever. Well, in building the consensus, communication is key.
Yeah, because you've got to tell the American public, look, we understand why because nobody wants an endless war, and that's the impression that Biden's giving. Plus, Biden can't be trusted on anything because of Afghanistan.
Right.
So you can't trust a dang thing.
Right.
But it is up to the other Republicans then, the leadership of the Republican Party, to put perspective of what we need to do against Russia and let people know that the battles that we face, like Islamic Jihad, well, we can't fight a forever war. Well, yeah, you do. Sometimes you do.
If they're at war with you,
yeah,
you don't stand down.
Right. That's the exact same thing Republicans were screaming. You can't pull out. You can't pull out. You can't pull out this way because we need to be in there because the terrorists are still going to stay there. This war is going to go on until we're all dead, and we've got to keep fighting it. That's what Republicans were saying.
Right.
And all of a sudden on Ukraine and Russia, no, we can't have a forever war.
Right.
Well, you may not want the forever war in Ukraine, but you're going to have a forever war with the likes of people like Putin.
Right.
866-90 Red Eye.
We'll be right back with more Red Eye Radio with Eric Harley and Gary McNamara.
It's Red Eye Radio. He is Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. Welcome and good morning. Supreme Court to look at immunity for Trump. We'll get to that in just a little bit. Still, there is hope for the country after Democratic Marianne Williamson reconsiders and she re-enters the presidential race after Biden's vulnerable Michigan showing.
Yeah.
So she's back.
Mm-hmm.
I
think I can win.
The self-described spiritual thought leader.
Spiritual thought leader?
Yes.
All right.
She's wow. What do you do for a living? I'm a spiritual thought leader.
I'm a spiritual thought leader.
That's what I do for my living. How much money do you make?
Yeah.
Not a living wage.
This is Red Eye Radio on Westwood One. Now, it's Red Eye Radio. Gary McNamara and Eric Harley talk about everything from politics to social issues and news of the day. Whether you're up late or you're just starting your day, welcome to the show. From the Uniden America Studios, this is Red Eye Radio.
All across America and around the planet, welcome, good morning, thank you for being here.
The planet Earth, to be clear. We don't want to be on any other planet. We're proud Earthlings.
If Trump is elected, I'm moving to Mars.
Mega, make Earth great again. Huh?
Mega.
There you go.
Waiting for waiting for somebody to say that. It was funny because when I was on X, everybody knows what it means now, don't they?
Yeah.
When I was on
and it's not referring to the 80s drug, the fashion drug from the 80s.
No, it is not.
You know, back when I was on X. I'm sorry, what? I'm sorry. Station managers getting up for a middle of the night drink of water is like, did they just talk about taking X?
So when I was on X, I saw trending Cher. I looked at you and I go, why is Cher in the news? The first thing that came to my mind, she was that. I said, okay, I'm going to click it. And it's going to be Cher says she's moving to Pluto, even though it's not officially a planet.
Right.
If Trump is reelected again.
Oh, it just hit me. I know why she's trending.
The young boyfriend?
No, that started like 40 years ago when she was in her 60s. I almost didn't finish that joke. No, the whole it was a music rights lawsuit between her and Mary Bono.
Oh, okay. That's not what came up when I didn't even see that.
Well, no. The thing with it is that the problem with X, it's been this way. When it's trending, there are so many other things that are up there. All of a sudden, you see the Cher fan page or whatever, and then all of a sudden you see all these other things. But she's in the news because of what looks like to be a situation that will favor her on a music rights case between her and Mary Bono. So, Sonny Bono's widow, for those that don't know. So.
Yeah, so it was basically, it showed her, just, I had to click it. Because I'm waiting, as the polls keep moving in one direction, I keep waiting for the insanity to come from Hollywood.
Yeah.
Thing is, though, even they understand that if they come out and say he's such a young president, talking about Biden, he's such a young president and he is so virile and look at how he eats that ice cream cone and we need somebody with the foresight. Everybody knows you're lying. Everyone does. And everybody in Hollywood does.
Yeah.
I think, though, you know what I think? I really think, and there are the three polls that we talked about. The one in Arizona, the one in North Carolina, and the one in Nevada. I think it was Harvard-Harris. That showed that Gavin Newsom is out of Biden, out of Harris, and out of Newsom, who does the worst against Trump? Newsom. I think when those came out, I really think that hit people in the Democratic Party hard. They said, my God, we thought Newsom was a guy we could bring in. And we asked the question that when they did that debate late last year, Newsom against DeSantis, Newsom got smoked.
Yeah, it was really horrible.
And we really said, why is he doing this? And we've talked about how there seems to be no self-awareness in Democrats right now. And you made the case early, this is sometime last year, about Newsom. It's like, look, he lives in a state where he's in his own bubble.
Yep. Big blue bubble of California.
He's in this bubble and will not recognize how the rest of the country thinks. And I know that I said, well, what does the public, does that really work? If you say Florida versus California, what's better? If you say Texas versus California, where is the better state to live? And I'm not talking about geography. I'm talking about the human beings that run and the political party that run those particular states.
Yeah.
That's what it's about. It's about the regulation. It's about freedom. It's about the ability to do business. It's the ability to be able to, to have, a more reasonable cost of living. And when you've seen the massive movement of people And when you see companies now starting to move, it's what we've always stated. Now liberalism, their biggest enemy is not Republicans, it's reality, because reality is hitting. And now you've seen the budget.
Yeah.
In California. Here we go again.
Right.
And so you start looking and say, okay, reality hitting. Give you another example. It's not California, but saw Denver. Denver's now backing off, saying, okay, we're going to cut these migrant shelters.
Yeah.
We got to cut all this stuff because we're spending too much money on it. Why? Reality hits.
Yep.
And reality's hitting there where people are screaming. Oh, I can't think of the name of the suburb outside of Denver. And it was early last week. And there was a meeting, and these people are just, the citizens are going crazy.
Was it Aurora?
No, it wasn't Aurora. No. That was another. They're going crazy. Sort of like what you saw in Athens, Georgia, with the mayor that we played earlier, where people are screaming, you're a liar, you're a liar, you're a liar. I mean, these people are just furious as to what's going on. So you and I have always, we asked the question, probably a year ago, we asked the question, if it is DeSantis versus Newsom, can you play that Florida versus, California? What does the public think about it? Well, again, these are only 3 different state polls, and it's not the be-all, end-all. But still the consistency of the polling on North Carolina, Nevada, and then Arizona, swing states you can look at. Maybe North Carolina, not as much, but still in the Senate, yeah, it is. But to see almost the same thing, that you've got Biden, and then a little below him is Harris in popularity against Trump, and then Newsom just craters.
Yeah.
And it's like, whoa. I mean, it was surprising to us when we brought it up late last week. And granted, it's only 3 states, but, they're, do we call it swing, purple states, whatever?
Yeah, right.
And the fact is, you can't sell California right now. You can't, look, you can sell the geography of California. You can sell the many great people in California. You can't sell the government of California. That's what you can't sell.
Well, and that's it. You can't sell the approach to government. You can't sell that idea more and more that we're going to take your freedoms and we're going to limit your freedoms, and we're going to skyrocket the cost of living, and we're going to do it under the guise of, a number of things. Saving the planet usually is right there at the top of the list, because I think for a lot of people, it's getting very old. I think 2 things that are getting very old that the left uses repeatedly: climate change and the race card. And I think people look at it and go, we got to stop this. I think one of the things, identity politics is very clear to those of us that have been watching it play out for decades now. And it was inevitable. We knew it. We said it would get to this point. But it was always going to get to this point. And the liberal transgender activist movement, I think, really was the wall that a lot of people hit and said, wait a minute. Now you're talking about changing science. Now you're talking about changing reality altogether. We're not talking about the whole tolerance of letting, the whole tolerance thing is where it started. Well, there needs to be tolerance. Live and let live. Actually, most people are there and were likely there from the beginning. When you start changing definitions, when you start changing reality, and when you start stealing people's freedoms, not just their freedoms of their behavior, but the freedom of how they speak. People draw the line. And then you want to say, if you don't agree with your child and your child wants to have mutilation surgery, and you don't agree with them, we'll take custody of your child. The left doesn't see it because they built this, and they're looking around now when more and more people are falling off, saying, whoa, 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 you've crossed the line. They're saying, they're standing there in a room going, what happened? A Gavin Newsom. You and I have been watching Gavin Newsom since he was on the city council in San Francisco.
Yeah.
He was making national news then. He's a radical. He's not, this is, and it's always been this way. He's not this rock star. He's a radical. And all throughout, I mean, then mayor, and then, now governor. And then the talk of him being president. Well, it's a very different stage when you take it outside of, look, it's a very different stage between San Francisco and Kern County or Orange County.
Yeah.
So he doesn't understand that. And what he does, he also buys into the same hype, which is lies of the whole, well, the other side, they're just filled with hate. They're just filled with hate. All of that is old. All of these old items from their playbook are done. They're burned. And there's no way to revive them. There's no way to come up with something new. They wanted this to be an era of this new civil rights movement. And you can tell that because they're wanting to take the Civil Rights Act and shred it. If anyone, we've been saying this for a long time, if anyone can belong to a protected class, as outlined by the Civil Rights Act, just by saying so, then there are no protected classes. And they know that. Obama knew it. They all know this. And so you shred it and bring about an entirely new civil rights movement. And that was something that Obama pointed to. He said, look, the civil rights movement didn't get a lot of things done. They would like a do-over. And it will include taking your liberties and shredding the Constitution. It requires that, in fact, if they're to get it done. But the American people are drawing the line because their playbook, every move out of their playbook, every play is predictable. You know where they're going with it. And Gavin Newsom has been doing this for a long, long time and has never had to step outside of his blue bubble. He's always been protected by that blue bubble of California, even during a recall election within his own state. Well, he won it. We know we've got plenty of conservative friends that live in California and listen to our show, and we greatly appreciate that and keep fighting the good fight. But people like Gavin Newsom don't have any other play because it is the core of who they are as individuals. Self-awareness has never been a part of their playbook. And it's clear now.
Do you remember when, I forgot what position he held. Remember when he came to Texas?
Yeah.
He said, we're taking a delegation to Texas to find out why businesses wish to move there. And
was he lieutenant governor? Or what was
I forgot where he was, but I just remember when that happened, we went, stop being an idiot. He's trying to make it sound like we need to do intense research and go into Texas. Right. What is it exactly that's going on? It's a more favorable business environment, which means
exactly
it's easier. It's easier for those companies to make a profit here than it is there.
Right. Right.
And now, I don't know, could they do that now, or did they reverse the law that you can't go to a state that does something? I don't know if it's the transgender stuff or whatever.
Yeah.
I know some of the states are reversing those laws because they're losing so much business.
Exactly.
Remember, it was initially
the bathroom. The
right,
bathroom
it was initially the bathroom bill
things.
That if you don't allow, think about how insane the Democrat left has gotten. If you won't allow, and this goes back 7-8 years ago.
Yeah.
If you won't allow men to urinate in front of your daughter or defecate in front of your daughter,
right,
in a restroom,
we won't do business.
We won't do business with your state. Well, that's really a strong position to hold.
Well, and they'll still sell their wares like Apple,
right,
in places of the world that will get you a death penalty for being gay.
Yeah, exactly. But the thing is, in San Francisco, formerly mayor of that, they did clear that up. They didn't bother with the restrooms. They said, nah, just defecate in the street in front of people's homes.
Exactly.
Yeah, we'll solve that
Yeah,
problem.
we'll fix it. No restrooms.
866-90 Red Eye.
Brought to you by Hot Shot Secret.
Hi, I'm Jen Loomis, a transport safety expert at J.J. Keller, and I'm here to share a tip on roadside inspections. Once a roadside inspection is completed, the officer will close it out, which involves the officer writing or typing up the report. The more the officer found during the inspection, the longer this will take. If violations were discovered, most officers, as a courtesy, will explain the violations to the driver. If there were any out-of-service violations, the officer will normally explain what must be done to get the out-of-service order lifted. Drivers need to be very attentive during this part of the inspection. The driver also needs to read and understand the complete inspection report. After receiving the inspection report, the driver has 24 hours to get the roadside inspection report to the motor carrier. If the driver will not be returning to a company facility within the next 24 hours, the driver needs to know to get it on the way to you via email, mail, or fax within 24 hours. This tip was brought to you by J.J. Keller & Associates. Visit us at jjkeller.com.
Coming up, more with Gary McNamara and Eric Harley. It's Red Eye Radio.
It's Red Eye Radio. He's Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. Welcome and good morning. So Oprah just is stepping down now? Or
all right, yeah.
Was
so, this was Oprah Winfrey was on the board of directors for Weight Watchers since 2015.
You mean WW?
Yeah, in 2018, they it's still WeightWatchers.com, but they decided because of the whole they were criticized for fat shaming. A company, I never saw any material, from them, any of their promotional material that said, hey, you're fat. You're really fat. You need to not be so fat. It was called Weight Watcher. It is called Weight Watchers. Oprah's been on the board since 2015. She's not going to run for re-election of the board. And their stock is dropping. Well, back in 2018, they dropped Weight Watchers. They dropped the weight and became WW. But their website is still Weight Watchers. And you'll see WW on the website here and there. But we were talking during the break. Well, WW, people think either the internet, wrestling, or for you.
I was wondering thinking, what world war are you talking
about?
Which world
war are you talking about? WW doesn't, it's Weight Watchers. And by the way, it's okay. These are people who went to Weight Watchers, their customers, over the years. Now, it may be an outdated thing, with Ozempic and all the other things on the market. It may be outdated. Maybe their plans aren't working as well. I don't know. But it's not fat shaming. They were trying to help people lose weight. It's that simple. They were making a lot of money.
More listeners not now than now, depending on when now is. Red Eye Radio.
And he is Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. Good morning. Download our Red Eye Radio app today. You can listen wherever you are, whenever you are.
Yes.
If you can't listen live overnight to one of our great radio stations.
And thank you.
All right, so this is from the liberal publication, I believe, New Republic. All right?
Yeah.
The Supreme Court, with its 3 Trump-appointed justices, agreed Wednesday to weigh in whether former President Donald Trump can claim presidential immunity to get out of his federal election interference trial. The court announced in a brief order that it would hear arguments and issue a ruling on Trump's presidential immunity claim. Until the Supreme Court does so, the January 6th trial is completely on hold, according to the order. The High Court agreed to expedite the case and hear arguments on the week of April 22nd, more than a month after the Super Tuesday primaries. It's not clear why the case is beginning in April. It could take months before we get an actual ruling, potentially by June at the earliest, if the Supreme Court decides quickly to reject Trump's bold immunity claim. Remember, this is from the Liberal magazine.
Right.
It may permit a final trial on the 2020 election interference to occur later this summer or fall, but there's no guarantee a final decision will actually come before November. Former appeals court judge Michael Ludwig predicted that it is now probably unimaginable that Trump will be tried in special counsel Jack Smith's federal election interference trial before the 2024 election. What's interesting here is, where they're going to go here. And there's two things, and they really match together, because there's this, and then there's those states out there that have said, we don't believe Trump should run. We are saying Trump should be out because of the insurrection law. Illinois did it yesterday. You had one judge do it yesterday. That's also will end up in the Supreme Court, and that will be overturned.
Yeah.
That will be overturned for a number of reasons. Number one, Illinois has no say in it. Number two, there was no insurrection.
Right. Yeah, it's not about the states. The states don't get to do this.
Right.
And, but it's all of this is for show. These judges.
Well, the funny thing is that I saw yesterday where did I said social media? Some Democrats said, well, they're saying the Supreme Court is saying that the states, don't have any jurisdiction here, but neither does the Supreme Court. It's Congress that has a jurisdiction. Right, and the Supreme Court
will recognize that.
Will recognize that it is Congress and not the state of
Illinois. They have the jurisdiction of proving that it's. I guess you don't too many people don't understand how it all works.
No, I've never seen such bad arguments. I've been doing this now.
90 years?
No, it was next week that I officially got back into radio again. I was in radio for a short time in '78. And then I got out, and that's when I, became, machinist, steel worker, all that. From the end of '78 through the end of '82. And then in March, first week of March, got back into radio in Fort Walton Beach, Pensacola, Florida.
Yeah.
That's when I lived in Navarre.
Right.
And I talk about Navarre a lot. Oh, man, I got to get back someday. I lived in Navarre. I just when there was nobody there, it was, and there's still, if you look at populated parts of Florida, it's still
in terms of permanent population.
Right,
yeah.
A lot of it probably because Eglin Air Force Base covers so much of that area. But I went back in March of '83, and I haven't been out since.
Right.
So it's
I started at 18, and here I am, 40 years later.
Yeah, you started a lot younger than I did. Yeah. I got in just for a little bit when I would have been 23, and then I didn't get back in again until I was 27. So, and I still sucked.
Yeah,
and now that I said that, there will be a number of people that will let me know I still do.
Oh yeah. Our staff is waiting for the break.
Yeah, I really. Yeah. But yes, but I realized this year, it will be July, end of June, will be 35 years in talk radio, and then October 1st will be 42 years total in radio.
Yeah,
and I'm so young,
Yeah,
I'm just lucky that at my age, I'm the new 24.
Yeah.
So
well, it's kind of like being a metal musician later in life. I realized, there's some other great music. Actually, I'm a big country music fan too. But I realized in playing music, there were some other choices. Like, why didn't I think of that? That was kind of my thing, though. And now, because I haven't done anything else. I work second jobs, but my only career has been this since I was 18. And I think, I wonder. Now, I almost did get in law enforcement. The thing is, sometimes half of me believes I'd be a horrible cop. Come on, Sarge. He says he didn't do it. I let him go. Did you search him? Nah. He looked like a nice guy. Or the other half believes I'd be a horrible cop. Listen, lady, I know you're guilty. Listen, she's the one who called you. She's the one that has the complaint. And I think that's, and also there would be, in all seriousness, I had, some issues where I didn't, my hearing especially, and I didn't trust myself in that situation. My father, a long-term military police officer, and I had many great conversations about that. And so while I know that I'm where I'm supposed to be, there are times when I look at a career and go, man, I wonder if I would have considered that in another life. You know what I mean?
Oh, I already know the other things I'd want to do.
Mm-hmm.
I'd want a geologist.
Yeah.
Basketball coach.
I love using brushes to dust off rocks, man. It's a hobby.
Basketball coach.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And that was I was in radio, but I did 2 years. I was an 8th grade basketball coach.
For me,
and it was and to be in that to coach is not at that level, and I think at any level, probably until you get to probably college, is about developing young people.
Well,
and when you have success in doing that, that was one of the greatest joys I ever had, and that's when I started. The first season was the one that, because it was the first time I ever did it, where I think we had a horrible record the first half of the season, and I told them, and then we played everybody else again, and we ended up, I think, a game or two over 500, but we beat every single team the second time, and it was them learning to play as a team together. And when I can still remember, it's amazing the things in life you remember.
Yeah.
Number one, I realized, for as much as when it comes to my teams, I can't even watch anymore because I go crazy. The rage of not being able to win drives me nuts. As a basketball coach, I never raised my voice once in 2 years. There were the other the coaches are screaming and yelling. One time they got into a fight. I go, what the hell's going on? These are kids. It's an eighth grade, school league, whatever. What's going on here? But I can still remember when I was teaching them how to do a fast break. And they did it, and they scored. And they understood that it finally, after, probably a couple of months trying to get them to do it, and they did it. And they came over so excited that they did it. Coach, we did it. And I just went, this is it, right? That was it. The joy that I got from that was like the first time that I got a standing ovation when I dabbled in stand-up comedy for a while. That was you're high in adrenaline for a while when you have those type of experiences. But this is what I was meant to do in this life, since it's going to be my only one. This is what I was meant to do.
Forensics would be probably my first choice, and I know now that would have been in the law enforcement choice. That would have been the one, because a first responder versus doing patrol versus forensics. And my dad actually was telling me that early on. I had been accepted into a police academy, and he said, okay, here's what I think you need to do if you're going to get the most out of this. And he talked about that, CSI type work, and then stand-up comedy, but that requires you to, again, build that over a period of years. And what's interesting is, think, well, man, I'd have to be in it for years and make no money until, oh, you mean like radio?
Well, I like radio better.
I love this.
I like this better.
I've never loved anything more, aside from family. I've never loved anything more.
I love this more because I think it's harder.
Yeah.
Because in doing stand-up comedy, you put together 45 minutes. Sometimes only 20 minutes. But
and to work up to,
and you slowly evolved it, but here it's completely creating something brand new every single day.
Yeah.
And that's the challenge of it that I love. But I just want to get to this real quick because we were on the insurrection situation, the Illinois judge that's going to be overturned.
Mm-hmm.
Supreme Court will overturn that, number one, because the state has no business in it, and also there was no insurrection. And then on the immunity claim, Trump, look, he's got immunity on the official actions. And so when he suggested that Biden do something, or when he suggested Biden, when he suggested the vice president do something in Congress, that's an official action. There was nothing unlawful against that whatsoever.
Mm-hmm.
When he came out and said he has immunity, every president has immunity from everything. Sorry, but Trump was delusional at that moment. A president does not have immunity from anything he does. If he commits murder, he has immunity. No, you'd be impeached and you would be prosecuted for that.
Right.
I don't know where his mind was that day when Trump said that, but that was getting to the point. And he keeps repeating that. He's done it more than once. That's delusional. That is nowhere in the law anywhere.
Right.
But when he told his vice president, I want you to do this, and the vice president said, nope, nothing illegal there at all. Nothing. That isn't interfering with anything.
Right.
Because if you do this, if it passed muster legal, then anything that any president does that's viewed as unconstitutional by the Supreme Court, you could remove them from office.
Oh, yeah.
And how many things has Biden been shot down for? That's absolutely unconstitutional. You can't do that. You're breaking the law. Well, you're breaking the law. Well, then you're out of office.
Right. And it would be never ending.
Yeah.
And and the leftist media, especially, basically, when they attach Trump's name to it, they believe it carries more weight legally.
And it doesn't.
It absolutely does not. Because you have to think of it beyond that. It's any president. We know your problem with the guy. Now let's talk about the office, and let's talk about the legal points. And no one wants to make that legal point. But Trump shouldn't have this immunity. This is everything you heard during the Trump years and since, and still today. Yeah, but Trump shouldn't have that power. If he's duly elected, he has it.
Oh, yeah, and just to finish the thought here on Trump, where he said a president has immunity from anything, that's not really going to be a part of the case, because what the Democrats are coming after him is not for doing anything like murder or stealing something.
Right.
It's for things that were in his official duties.
Right.
So.
Right.
It's that simple. So that doesn't even apply to it.
No.
But again, it's like, why did you muck up a very strong legal point with bringing up something that you can be mocked over and over again that you're completely wrong on? I have no idea.
No, but
and that's why I went back. I've only read the headline on it. Derek Hunter's column. I think it's in townhall.com, saying this is Trump's election.
Mm-hmm.
Will he blow it? 866-90 Red Eye.
Lines open for your calls. 866-90 Red Eye on Red Eye Radio.
It's Red Eye Radio. He is Eric Hurley, and I'm Gary McNamara. I love this story. Major Gavin Newsom donor benefiting from California's $20 minimum wage exemption pushed by the governor. A major donor to Democratic California Governor Gavin Newsom is expected to reap the benefit of an obscure exemption to the state's new $20 minimum wage regulations for the fast food industry that will allow some restaurants to continue paying the lower wages. Why? For what reason? Newsom pushed for the exemption, which allows restaurants baking and selling bread as a standalone item to continue paying the current $16 to its employees. That means billionaire Greg Flynn, a longtime donor of the governor, could save hundreds of thousands of dollars a year because he doesn't have to pay the minimum wage.
This is Red Eye Radio on Westwood One.